I tell you guys that I watched that documentary or that biopic finally.
The Elton John one?
Elton John.
Yeah, it was good. I really liked that movie.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I was over at Meryl's house the other day and watched
Definitely not Goat musical, but it was good.
Okay. Since it's the three of us, I should have voted Les Mis. That was the vote. I was going to pick that one. And I did the dumb thing and just tried and voted for the Chris's to try to keep the peace or not cause a fight. And it just caused a bigger fight. So I should have just been like, you know what? Fuck it, it's Les Mis. Let's see. I think you two should get Gina and Jesse and do a Goat musical redo episode. Just have the four of you. Like Troy and Chris are out. Screw their opinions. Let's actually get some people who know musicals and actually talk about it. That'd be fun.
I'm glad we have it recorded that Les Mis should have won.
No, it's true. It's true.
I think we found an intro.
Yeah, screw you, Chris.
Hello and welcome to the Coldbow podcast. This is Jake and I'm here with my cold bros. What's up, guys?
Hey.
How you doing?
Doing well. We're riding one short today. Chris couldn't make it. He had something going on. I'm not really sure. Didn't really ask. He's got something going on. He couldn't make it. So sorry, Chris. We'll do better without you.
It's kind of funny. A lot of people during this what?
We'll do better without you. Sorry you're not here, but you suck.
I was gonna say it's kind of funny that a lot of people during this coronavirus quarantine thing, a lot of people are out of work, but a lot of people are the opposite, have a lot going on.
Yeah,
and then on top of that, have to stay home with their kids. And
yeah,
I think a lot of us are in that boat. And it's
I don't necessarily want to speak for Chris too much, but I know that he works from home. But his wife is a nurse, so his wife is at the hospital all day. She works at the hospital all day.
Yeah.
And then he's working from home and he takes care of 3 children.
Mm-hmm. One of them being
one of them is not
old?
One of them's not one yet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's got 3 children and he's trying to work from home and he's like and then he's going to school. Him and I are going to school at nights. And it's every night. 5 days a week. Like it's insane. I don't know how he does it. It's crazy. His schedule is so insane.
So our thoughts and prayers go out to Chris in this troubling time.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
But we're going to have a better episode without you.
We're going to have a way better episode without you.
I'm so excited.
What have you guys been up to?
Oh man. Okay. So I'm going to do what I do best, and I'm going to go first and say that...
Hey, you can only go first if you take 15 minutes.
I have been watching, for the first time, I've heard so much about it, and I've decided that I would take the plunge, and so I've been watching the animated Clone Wars, Star Wars Clone Wars.
I started
TV
that.
show.
I never finished it. Yeah.
I've been watching that.
There's a lot there.
There is a lot. There's 7 seasons. I think the 7th season may have just ended, or they're going right now with the 7th season. But the first 5 seasons are like regular TV shows. So there's 22 episodes a season, and so and then there's a 2-hour movie to start the whole thing. It's a lot of content, which is great. What I love about the show is that. Before Disney took over, so it's all Legends now, but before Disney took over, it was produced by George Lucas and it was canon.
Mm-hmm.
So all the stuff that happened in the show is canon for Star Wars, which is freaking awesome to me. Like, it's so cool how much, because there's so much lore that happens in those episodes. Like,
they get into like what are they, like the old ones, or like these like godlike creature people?
I just watched an episode where they like ended up on some strange planet and there was this old man that was the balance between good and the light side and the dark side, and then
son and daughter.
there was the brother and sister, the son and daughter, the brother and sister that were like the physical embodiment of the light side and the dark side of the Force. And it was Anakin like trying to come to terms with like, oh, I see his side, I see her side. I'm trying to like be on both sides of this and trying to find the balance. And it like it was so there was a series of 3 episodes and it was so lore heavy that I was like, I don't know if it's definitely 100% a kid's show.
Yeah.
But I don't know if kids would understand what it is that they're even watching with those episodes specifically. But I picked so much up from it and I was like, this is so cool.
I watched this YouTuber called Star Wars Theory that talked about those characters.
I've been watching Star Wars Theory as well.
Dude, he's awesome.
He's great.
And most of the content he gets for that show comes from the Clone Wars.
Well, it's because there's 7 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Filoni, the guy who created the Clone Wars, he created Rebels. He's made more Star Wars content than any other person alive.
Yeah.
And so he's got. But something else that we did, I actually was at my parents' house last night, and I finished season 3 at their house. And then when it was done, my mom was talking to me about Star Wars, and she was talking to me about Anakin and all this, and I was talking to Dad about all this, the lore and all this stuff, and then we were talking about I was talking about episode 3 because this all takes place in between episode 2 and episode 3.
Right.
So I was talking about episode 3 and how much I loved episode 3, and so Mom was asking about it, and so we watched episode 3, and it like I always get super emotionally invested into the fight scene at the end because
that's a great.
And we talk, visit our Star Wars episode, Coldbow's Star Wars episode, if you want to hear more about this, because I loved the fight scene at the end.
It was the lightsaber battles. That was
the lightsaber.
Did that one win?
The lightsaber battles.
Goat? I don't remember. Anyway,
did it? I don't remember, but that it's my goat because that the emotional impact of Obi-Wan screaming at Anakin like, you were my brother, you were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join, like all that, the emotional impact of all that.
A lot. It's joked about a lot, but man, that when I think of like an emotional fight, and I think I remember talking about this very thing in that episode, but that's what I think about is that
so great.
Yeah, I think out of all of Star Wars lightsaber battles, that one definitely had the most emotion for sure.
But so there's that. But I felt more emotion watching that last movie, watching episode 3, when I watched Commander Cody take the shot at Obi-Wan Kenobi on his lizard.
Oh,
and he shot because he got Order 66 and he's got these inhibitor chips and they're installed in their brains. And if you watch the Clone Wars TV show, you know that Commander Cody, the clone, Commander Cody and Obi-Wan Kenobi are like this.
Really?
They're like best friends. They love each other.
Interesting.
They're such close friends. But Commander Cody has the inhibitor chip in his brain that won't allow him to disobey an order. And so when Order 66 comes in, he shoots down Obi-Wan Kenobi without question. And then you see all the other Star masters get shot down by all these different clones. And after watching Clone Wars, the TV show, you realize how much the clones look up to the Jedi, how much they like the Jedi, their close relationships. And that part had so much more of an emotional impact to me than it ever had before. Because before it was just clones. It was just stormtroopers that I was seeing doing that. But now after seeing the show and like seeing anyway, sorry. I ran. So Scott, there you go. There's my 15 minutes.
So no, this is funny though, because like haven't they announced that is it Ahsoka? Is that her name? Is going to be on the Mandalorian?
Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah.
Rosario Dawson. They cast.
So I think that's great. Like because if you're not familiar,
great casting too.
Ahsoka was
the main character.
Well, she was trained by Anakin.
Yeah, and she's a super interesting character too because season 1 of Clone Wars, she's super annoying.
Yeah.
but she's like a teenage girl. So most adults, a teenage girl is annoying. But then as she grows through the seasons and through the episodes, like you really start to like appreciate who she is, and you like her more as a character, and you start seeing her like Anakin sees her as the like learner, and she's trying hard. It's super fantastic. I highly recommend Clone Wars. And then I've heard that the TV show Rebels is even better, so I'm looking forward to that too. So anyway, that's what I've been up to, watching Clone Wars. It's been super fun.
Cool.
Also buying my Tiger King Hawaiian shirts.
I actually didn't notice the tigers until you just pointed out. We've been sitting here bullshitting for 35 minutes, and I barely noticed. I just barely noticed your
throwback to a couple weeks ago when we did our Tiger King episode. There's my
there it is.
Big cats.
Dude, that's a dead meme by now. Come on.
I know, right? It's old.
Anyway. I still see lots of Carol Baskin memes. It's pretty great. I've been watching Westworld. I just started it, so if you have spoilers, don't give them to me because I just finished season 1. What's funny about Westworld?
I've only seen season 1, but I loved it.
It was great. Oh man,
the bad guy did it. That's your spoiler.
Dude, spoiler, man. I can't even plug my ears.
The bad guy did do it.
No. But
also the good guy did it.
That's
Gross.
True. That's fair. That actually is a lot more of a spoiler.
well, with modern TV and film, that's usually the case as well.
Right. So it's funny because I tried to watch Westworld like 5 different times, and I could only make it like halfway through the first episode, and then I just couldn't make it, or for whatever reason. So finally I just sat back and I just watched. I was like, okay, that was great. And then I just kept watching, and it's a great show. And I'm really excited to see where they go with it after the end of season 1. Because season 1, like the premise behind Westworld is it's a futuristic story told about it's a theme park that's based in the Wild Wild West, and all of the Westerners.
Wild Wild West with
Will Smith shows up. It's crazy. In the Wild West, damn it. And all of the
hashtag 90s kid.
I know, right? all of the they call them hosts. They're all robots, but they're super hyper realistic, and you can do whatever you want. If you're a guest and you come to this park, you can do whatever you want. You can have sex with the robots, you can shoot them, you can kill them, you can do whatever you want.
Torture them. It gets pretty dark.
It gets really, really dark. But the premise behind the story is it turns really quickly into this whole like creator versus the created aspect, which is really, really compelling. And the story,
the robots start gaining sentience.
Yeah, like the consciousness and conscience, not conscious, conscience.
And let me guess, you get to a point where you're not sure if someone's a robot or not.
No, you pretty much know that everybody is a robot or not. You know, that's
what you get is what does it mean to be human?
Yeah,
and this was the original, because this was a movie in like the 70s or something. It was written by Michael Crichton.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yul Brynner was the star of that movie.
Interesting.
Love a Yul Brynner reference.
But Westworld. That's what I've been up to.
It's a great show. Highly recommend that show. I need to finish it, but I need to get a HBO subscription before I can start watching that one.
Yeah. Anyway,
so we were talking about some true crime stuff before we started recording, before we started the episode, and it made me think of, I just watched this or listened to and watched an episode of Joe Rogan podcast with a guy named Tom O'Neill, who wrote this book. He spent 20 years writing a single book about the Manson family murders.
Oh yeah.
But how it is absolutely crazy. You need to go listen to this, because it's about like how what is it, like the LSD testing the government was doing on people, and it all lines up with Charles with Manson being subject to LSD from the government and being one of their subjects and kind of learning how to do it on people, and that's how he got his following. Was mimicking. Anyway, it's crazy. It is absolutely nuts, and it goes super deep. He wrote this book called Chaos, Charles Manson and the CIA in the 60s or something like that. Anyway, it's crazy. It's hard not to be interested in the Charles Manson family thing because it's so interesting and crazy. But this comes at it from a whole different angle that it kind of blindsided me. It's pretty cool.
I'm really interested.
What was the podcast that you and I both listened to, Scott, that they talk?
It was the
was it Stuff You Should Know, or was it
Stuff You Should Know?
Dumb Question? Stuff You Should Know. That was wild.
Yeah, and they did like basically this Tom O'Neill guy, because there's the famous book Helter Skelter.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And he basically disproves that whole thing, and it actually, from his findings, the author, it was also like involved in some of the court proceedings and stuff of Helter Skelter. He like has a bunch of dirt on him, and is anyway. It's crazy.
Interesting.
I want to.
It is. Have you seen? Go listen to it.
Have you seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood yet?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude,
I haven't.
Dude, it's the Manson family.
Yeah.
Story. Well, sort of side story.
What should have happened?
But it's totally Quentin Tarantinoized.
Yeah.
And it is so interesting. You gotta watch that one.
Think Inglourious Bastards, but
Marilyn Manson. That was me, Troy. That was me. I'm the one who said Marilyn first.
Okay.
I meant Charlie Manson. Anyway, let's get into the episode, guys. We did last season 2, one of our most popular episodes that everybody really liked was the Steve Martin episode that we did. That was one of my favorite episodes, mainly because the research was so much fun.
Yeah, I think we all enjoyed the homework. That was great.
It was so great. So we've decided to do another one. And today we're going to talk about Bill Murray. Bill Murray. I know it's not his middle name, but I'm just so excited about this show. Bill Murray, he's the legend, right?
Dude, he's going to be 70 this year. Isn't that crazy?
That is nuts.
That's wild.
Dude, he's when I think of Bill Murray, I always think of all the twists and turns his career's done. Like he's the different type, because he gets typecast and then breaks typecast and then gets typecast again and then breaks, and then he's kind of just always breaking typecast, it feels like.
Seriously, you look at his old movies, like his original one, what was the first one? Meatballs. He was the camp counselor in Meatballs, and then you look at like Caddyshack and those ones where he was just kind of he was this really weird character that was off the wall. It seemed like he was just constantly
a lot of his early ones. Yeah, he's kind of the really confident womanizer, you know.
Well, that was the next iteration of him. Because the first iteration was like Caddyshack, where he was just like some dude that just showed up. That's Caddyshack, that's Meatball, that's all these movies. But then like the next iteration, you get like Ghostbusters and Stripes.
Yeah, that's when he's the confident,
and he's the super confident womanizer. He's like, which is super great. And then you get then later on you get the.
Well, what's interesting,
but it's funny because he's not classically handsome, so it's like that character coming out of him, I've always enjoyed.
Yeah, in fact, Chevy Chase said that his face looked like something Neil Armstrong landed on.
Him and Chevy Chase famously did not get along.
That was in their feud that they had, the Saturday Night Live feud that caused the big rift between them two. That was one thing that he said to Bill Murray.
It's hilarious.
I've heard stories of that because Brian Doyle Murray, his brother, who is in almost all of his movies, he's the mayor of Punxsutawney. What about?
I always think of him as the record or the main businessman in Wayne's World.
Yeah.
Brian Doyle Murray was a writer on Saturday Night Live, and he talks about how he had to split up Bill Murray and Chevy Chase when they got in their fist fight during the live taping. They got into a fist fight, and Brian Doyle Murray had to get in the middle of them and like split them apart. And he was just talking about how it was so wild. Like in the middle of a live taping, they went at it. And
what's interesting about Bill Murray is that we were kind of talking about this beforehand. He really didn't have that many lead roles until probably like the late 80s, early 90s. He was very often just the side
and even
supporting
then,
actor, you know?
Yeah, even then, like even now, he's not often the lead.
Yeah.
I think Groundhog Day might be one of his only movies where he's the sole lead. He carried the movie.
I mean,
by himself.
Garfield
and Scrooged.
Do you have any regrets? Maybe Garfield.
You know, actually, so again, we're talking about Garfield. I actually read that he joined that, decided to join that movie because he read that it was written by Joel Cohen.
Yep.
But he thought it was Joel Cohen. So Joel Cohen with an H. But he thought it was actually Joel Cohen. I think of the Cohen.
Oh, he thought it was the Cohen brothers.
Yeah, so he joined the movie thinking it was being made by a different person. But he made a sequel. He made two of them.
I'm sure he signed a deal, which I'm sure he made a lot of money doing it. So,
which makes his line about Garfield in Zombieland even that much.
Oh my god,
he accidentally agreed to that role.
That is so funny.
But it is interesting. He's actually taken a couple in his career some leave of absences. He did. I've got my notes here pulled up. I apologize if I'm just being a little slow. But he did those like Caddyshack, Stripes, Meatballs, and then in like '84 he took a break and then came back. And then in '88 and '89 he did Scrooge and Ghostbusters too,
which is interesting though because that's
like a 4-year break.
That's fairly early in his career, so it's kind of a ballsy move.
Yeah,
he also has, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later on in the episode, but he's like notoriously difficult to work with on set because he just kind of shows up when he wants to. He'll show up 4 hours late and be like, sorry guys, I was shooting a round of golf and got carried away.
He's an avid golfer.
And then
as seen on
he won't memorize lines. He won't read the script. He'll ad-lib half his lines in the movie. But he'll make them work with the other people's lines. But he's not easy to work with, but he's so brilliant as a funny person.
Yep.
That you can't afford not to have him. If you can have him, you have to have him. He's a fascinating character.
He's very fascinating. And like we talked about how he's not often the main character in movies, but he's often the biggest one on the poster.
Right.
Because he sells tickets for sure.
Well, and going back with his what you were saying about him being kind of notoriously hard to work with, people that are typically given that reputation are typically people that you have to gain their respect, basically, right? Like, for instance, he works with Wes Anderson a lot because he views Wes Anderson as like a good, competent, like he works hard, all of those things. So there's that level of respect. If Bill Murray doesn't respect you as a professional, then he'll be hard to work with. Same with like, Tom Hardy or these other people that have developed this reputation of being hard to work with. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think his relationship with Wes Anderson is interesting because I've heard that he'll accept a role in a Wes Anderson movie just sight unseen. He'll do it no matter what.
Yeah.
So before we get into, we're going to do our GOAT and runner up for this. But before we get into that, I want to talk about Wes Anderson because not a single Wes Anderson movie made any of our GOATs or runner ups. So I want to make a kind of a shout out to his Wes Anderson movies because there's only one where he has like, there might be more, but Moonrise Kingdom, I think he has a bigger role. But like Steve Zissou is basically the only movie where he's like he's not even the main character in it. He's the title character, but he's not the main character.
Right.
But his work with Wes Anderson is so good, and he's so great in all those movies.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's such a great like left turn from his usual roles. It's super refreshing.
I think we need to do an episode about Wes Anderson sometime in the future because I love Wes Anderson movies.
I don't think Chris will want to join that one either. He hates Wes Anderson.
Does he not like Wes Anderson?
Yeah, I had to do this was a few years ago. I think back when I think it was Moonrise Kingdom. I did a school project on the auteur theory. And this was actually what developed my interest in Christopher Nolan as well. But I did this project on Wes Anderson as an auteur, and I was talking to Chris about it, and he does not have very good things to say about Wes Anderson.
He wouldn't. He doesn't. It's very history and
Wes Anderson is definitely a film student's type of filmmaker. Like
But dude, you watch Grand Budapest Hotel and tell me you don't like that. It is hilarious. It is so good.
And Bill Murray's in it for all of like 2 minutes.
Yeah,
he's barely in it, but so we're not going to get too far into Wes Anderson as a filmmaker, but Bill Murray in Wes Anderson movies. Did you guys watch Steve Zissou?
No.
Life Aquatic?
No,
that was one I was planning on watching this whole time, and I just never got to it.
Life Aquatic is a really good one, and it's really quirky. It's really weird.
Yeah, it seems to be the most quirky of
Bill Murray is so brilliant in it, like as Steve Zissou, but he's so off the wall weird. But that's basically what he does with Wes Anderson. So,
and I to give Chris credit, I could understand why it's so niche and one thing that it's really easy to have lots of people.
Yeah, Wes Anderson has a style, and I think you're definitely within your right to not like the style.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I have some issues with the style, but I think that his stories are pretty good. I think,
and he's definitely a filmmaker that's like you love him or you hate him. There's not much middle ground with Wes Anderson.
And I
personally love him, but
can I read what Chris said about Bill Murray?
Yeah, do the little intro there that he did.
So Chris, as we've already discussed, isn't here, and as if you're watching on YouTube, which by the way we are recording on Zoom again because this coronavirus bull. But anyway. So that's why if you get any feedback, any issues, bumping mics, whatever. Anyway, so Chris isn't here, but he sent us his info. He says his thoughts on Bill Murray. Bill Murray is America's sweetheart. Why? I honestly can't say I know why. It seemingly started, in my opinion, from the movie Zombieland, or it's very possible that was just the first time I had noticed the world's infatuation with Bill. Soon after the Chive, sorry, I need to slow down. Soon after, the Chive had black T-shirts with Bill's face on it, and the Bill Murray stories were made.
I have one, by the way.
Me too.
I've always wanted one. I had never heard these stories about Murray stealing French fries and party crashing karaoke night. However, the stories I did hear about was Bill being unreliable, volatile, and physically assaulting men and women on set. Richard Dreyfuss is seemingly still scarred from filming What About Bob almost 30 years ago. Which brings him to his runner-up. So should we get into runners-up? Runner-ups?
Yeah, let's hear Chris's runner-up.
Okay, so Chris's runner-up, sorry, I'm just writing down some notes too here. His runner-up is called Bill Murray Stories.
Did y'all just pick him up?
It's Bill Murray. Yeah.
Oh, you are kidding.
There's always that one person who you want to meet, and you'd be like, this is never going to happen. And then this guy shows up at your door.
I'm bartending outside on the patio, and I get a text message.
We're just about to sit down for dinner. Knock at the door.
I'm a wedding photographer, and I get ready to photograph. And as I look through the lens, I see this guy.
We were having a house party,
and I run inside, close the door. I was like,
shh, you're not going to believe it. Bill Murray's here.
Hello, my name is Tommy Avalone. I'm a documentary film director, and I wanted to do a story with you. I'm not good at this.
There are legions of tall tales about Bill that have circulated online throughout the years. So I looked, and it's Bill Murray slapping his belly.
These Bill Murray stories are random interactions with Bill and regular everyday people.
Bill Murray could just sort of like arrive in your life for a few minutes.
Why would such a big celebrity insert himself into these random situations?
I don't think people can figure out why he would do that. It's like, where's Waldo?
This was a search for answers.
Bill was just fine getting lost.
You okay?
Yeah.
I'm Bill, by the way.
He just reveled in not knowing where he was. I run inside, and Bill is bartending.
He's like a candle when you light it in a room, and all of a sudden the room smells great.
He goes after little moments, charged with meaning.
He marches to his own beat.
Bill is teaching us all how to live.
I thought it was going to be, what about Bob?
Do you guys want me to keep reading up on this? Reading, or does anyone else want to join in?
You're doing great.
All right.
I can read his thing about Bill Murray stories.
Okay, go for it.
So he says, not sure if this counts since Bill Murray is not in this movie per se. This is a documentary about a man so fascinated with the stories of Bill Murray walking into people's houses, washing their dishes, or stealing food off of their plates and telling them nobody will believe you. The filmmaker travels across the world tracking down people who have had interactions with Bill, and they're hoping to get the truth once and for all. This documentary very much humanizes Bill and shows a softer side to the larger-than-life actor that he is. And to immediately contradict myself, I guess Bill has always felt grounded. The documentary just permanently stapled him at the top of America's sweetheart list.
There's no doubt that he's definitely like...
I loved that documentary, by the way. I don't know if any of you, if you guys have seen it or not.
I have not.
Bill Murray stories. The cover of it is the classic photo of Sasquatch walking through the woods, but has Bill Murray's face on it because it's so mythical. All these stories of Bill Murray, just like, he was in town, saw on Facebook that someone was having a frat party, showed up at the party, washed their dishes. And then fell asleep on the couch in the middle of the party, woke up in the morning and left before anybody else woke up. And that's just a thing that happened. Or walking up and, like Chris said, he walks up to people in a restaurant and takes a fry off their plate, eating it, and then whispers in the air, no one will ever believe you.
I know this
like it's something you do too.
I know this is part of like the whole whatever he is. It almost feels contrived a little bit, like he's...
Well, some of it, a lot of it is probably apocryphal, where did it happen? Did it not happen? Are people making stuff up and just saying, because saying that Bill Murray came up to me in a restaurant, ate one of my fries and said, no one will ever believe you. It sounds like something he would do, but it also sounds like something someone would make up but people would believe because Bill Murray's such a crazy, weird person.
Yeah. All it takes is a couple real, like, documented cases of it happening to make anything possible.
But then you have the people who have pictures of him singing karaoke with them.
Exactly.
So dive bar in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah.
So there are documented cases of it happening, but
there's so much like myth to it. There's so much apocryphal to it. It's such an interesting idea. It's an interesting documentary. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think the mythos behind it, the Bigfoot aspect of it is, I think as well as that is, if you ever wanted to have a chance encounter with any celebrity, you're kind of rolling dice as far as whether they'll be a jerk or whether they'll be nice. But I think the idea that's spreading is that because he's America's sweetheart right now or whatever, the idea is that if you run into Bill Murray on the street or wherever, if he crashes your party, that you're going to have a good time. It's going to be great, and you're going to have a great story to tell. I think that's kind of that story that it's creating. You know what I mean?
It's also going to be chaotic. You have no idea what you're going to get.
That's also fair.
You may run into him and he may just completely blow you off, but you may run into him and he'll take you out for a drink and then you'll have the craziest night of your life. Like, you have no idea.
Well, yeah, because he's a human and runs into people every day. I mean, obviously not now. We're all in quarantine.
But he's also the person that's willing to go out.
Yeah. But what I'm getting at is he sees people every day. He's not doing crazy stuff, sleeping over every day.
Oh, right.
So you're right. Most of the time, he's just going to blow you off or do the typical take a selfie and go part your ways. But there are a handful of times or a percentage of times that he he has time to kill and will kill it with you.
It's wild. So even though doesn't star Bill Murray and he's not in it, it is a very interesting runner-up.
Yeah, I want to watch it. Yeah, good pick.
I would suggest it.
All right. Well,
okay, who's next?
Why don't you go next, Jake?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. My runner-up was Ghostbusters.
People think they're seeing ghosts. And they call these bozos who conveniently show up to deal with the problem with a fake electronic light show.
Everything was fine with our system until the power grid was shut off by Dickless here.
They caused an explosion.
Is this true?
Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
Jesus!
Hey,
no,
break it up.
If there's something strange in your neighborhood.
Classic, instant classic. That movie was so brilliant. Him as Dr. Venkman. I still, to this day, fall out of my chair laughing every time he walks into her apartment and he like tinkles the piano and he's like, they hate this. That joke, it's still to this day, I fall out of my chair laughing every time I see it.
He has he has the best one-liners in that movie.
Oh my!
Oh, dude.
Does your girlfriend sleep over or under the sheets? Over. 3 feet over the cover. Like it's so.
All right, so my girlfriend's a dog.
So my girlfriend's a dog. It's just everything that he does in that. Like, yes, this man has no dick.
Dude, that's the line I was thinking of. I was like, what is the line in that? Yeah.
All right, Dickless. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes. This man has no dick. Dude. I remember the first time seeing that and being old enough to get the joke. Oh, it floored me.
That's such a that's such a Leslie Nielsen. Like, surely you must be joking. No, I'm not joking. Don't call me Shirley. That's such that kind of a joke, and it's perfect. It's
so great. He did the all of it. I don't know. It's just great. He's teamed up with Harold Ramis again. His team ups with Harold Ramis are wonderful. He did Stripes with Harold Ramis.
But they had a falling out, didn't they?
They did. Have you seen the documentary series, The Movies That Made Us?
Mm-mm.
It's on Netflix.
Yes, I
watch those ones. I saw
the
Home Alone.
Home Alone.
The Home Alone one is fascinating. The Ghostbusters one, they talk about Bill Murray and Harold Ramis. And I think Harold Ramis directed Groundhog Day, and they had a falling out during that.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't speak to each other the rest of their lives until Harold Ramis was on his deathbed.
Yep.
Wow.
Bill Murray showed up to come talk to him and to kind of bury the hatchet. And he showed up in the most Bill Murray way possible. He shows up to his hometown, doesn't know where Harold Ramis lives, goes to the police department and says, "Take me to Harold Ramis's house," and gets a police escort to Harold Ramis's house.
Because he's Bill effing Murray.
Because he's Bill effing Murray. And he goes and does and buries the hatchet with Harold Ramis on his deathbed. And Harold Ramis's daughter talks about that in that Movies That Made Us documentary.
Isn't Harold Ramis's son making the new Ghostbusters? That
is he? I didn't know it was his son.
I think so.
That's interesting.
But that's why a lot of the original cast is coming back or reprising some old roles.
Including Bill Murray. Jason Reitman.
Oh, well, no, Ivan Reitman is the one who made Ghostbusters.
Oh, okay.
So it would be Jason Reitman. Would probably be Ivan Reitman's son.
I got words mixed up, but I did hear that the son of the director of the first one was directing the newest one.
But Bill Murray and Ivan Reitman had some great movies, but Bill Murray and Harold Ramis, their chemistry together on screen was so brilliant. It was so great. But
that's another thing about Bill is once he gets like the chemistry with another actor or actress, man, he's really good. He does a lot of off script stuff with them, and he's really good.
Yeah, super interesting.
I mean, him and Michael Jordan,
him and Larry Bird. That guy's clear. So that's my runner-up.
Great, good pick. And it's surprising to me that such a renowned or popular,
beloved
famous,
movie.
beloved, that's the word, film movie like Ghostbusters is a runner-up.
We could do an entire. That might end up on Mount Rushmore. We don't know.
There's a lot.
That's definitely the type of movie that would end up on Mount Rushmore.
Right.
I was saying in our chat earlier when I was telling you guys my runner-up, I have about a half a dozen because there are so many.
Yeah.
Like brilliant movies.
I'll transition to mine, and man, I have like 4 that went down to 2 because they're other people's goats, and it kind of kills me not to go with Caddyshack because it's one of those, Troy, you just talked about, one of these really renowned comedies. It's like kind of a pillar of comedies for its time and going forward.
Speaking of, he had great chemistry with Chevy Chase, who they hated each other.
Exactly.
But their chemistry in that scene when they're in the garage and they're kind of smoking weed together.
Yep.
In Caddyshack was a great scene. Their chemistry was brilliant.
But I didn't go with Caddyshack. I kind of want to do one of his more contemporary ones because most of ours are older. I'm going with Jungle Book.
Necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife.
What's that?
That's a song about the good life.
What's a song?
You never heard a song before? Everyone's got a song. Look for the bare necessities.
As Baloo.
Ooh, I like that pick. I really do. I like. He plays Baloo, and him as Baloo is perfect casting.
Oh yeah,
absolutely,
so good. And his chemistry again with the boy somehow portrayed it as a bear, a CG bear. It is so good. And his charisma is perfect for the role. The song is great. Oh man, I love the movie. The movie's so good.
Yeah, Bill Murray as Baloo is like the most perfect marriage of a beloved character with a contemporary actor. It's just so perfect.
Well, and you just you look, the character of Baloo, he's just this laid back bear, that teaches Mowgli to just chill and relax and just let life come to you. That concept, just look in the voice actor itself, the voices between the original Baloo, I can't remember the voice actor's name, and then Bill Murray are pretty different, but Bill Murray does such a good job with the character that it makes it almost more believable because you also, as you're listening, that's Bill Murray's voice, and it's almost like this is something like maybe Bill Murray would actually say or Bill Murray would actually do. Is just
Baloo is definitely the type of bear that would eat a fry off your plate and then whisper in your ear, "No one will ever believe you."
Absolutely.
Or crash your party and take a nap on your couch.
And it wasn't
definitely slept on Akila's couch at one point.
It wasn't until this casting that clicked with me. I was like, oh yeah, Bill Murray is Baloo. Like they are. Anyway, that's my runner-up.
It's a great runner-up. It's a great movie.
Yeah,
I loved that movie too.
It's so good.
Yeah,
it's very good. And
it's not often that these remakes that these live action remakes and stuff are that good. Like this one really does justice to the original story, which has been done a million times, but it also it pulls you in as the characters, and then the technology behind the CG.
And then the other voice acting in that movie, Shere Khan was Idris Elba, right?
And there's lots of that cast is really good.
And I believe
Scarlett Johansson is Ka.
Yeah, the snake. Right? Yeah.
Good stuff. Great stuff.
I like that one. My runner-up is actually Scrooged.
Okay, you're beautiful, Frank. Got any last tips for me, huh?
Oh God, Frank, go watch the show. He's here for me. Come on. All right, come on, give it to me. You think I'm afraid of you? The day I've had. I know what you came for. Come and get it, you pussy.
Bryce.
Stop scaring Frank. Get this nutcake out of here.
Oh, we got a show to do.
He's in the show, Mr. Cross, as the ghost of Christmas future.
And the reason why I picked this one, actually, okay, so first of all, this is one of my favorite Bill Murray movies. I've always liked the story of Christmas Carol, but I really liked the modern retelling of it. And I felt like Bill Murray was the perfect choice for it. If we're putting a GOAT Bill Murray movie of all time, Scrooge wouldn't win, right? But growing up, this was my GOAT. My GOAT. It's not my GOAT pick, but growing up it was.
I think we talked about Scrooged a little bit when we did our Christmas episode, didn't we?
I think so, yeah. And it's kind of one of those forgotten movies that you don't realize until you like are going through Christmas movies. You're like, oh, Scrooge, you know what I mean? Like, or maybe it's not forgotten. I don't know. But it's
a great one though.
What I was interested, like what surprised me when I was kind of doing some research for this episode was that was one of his first leading roles. Was Scrooge, was in the late 80s, 89, I think 88 or 89 was when that came out. And he was in Saturday Night Live in the mid 70s and had roles in the late 70s or film roles in the late 70s and the early 80s and everything. And so that was really kind of his first leading role. I don't know if it was his first, but it was definitely first top 2 or 3. But yeah, so I don't know, he does the role really, really well.
Yeah. Oh, his change at the end, so great. Those scenes are awesome. But
yeah,
I never watched that one all the way through. For some reason I just could never get through it. It was like maybe I saw it on TV and didn't watch it all the way through or something.
Well,
I didn't watch it till later in life. I was maybe 25, 26 when I saw it for the first time.
Yeah, our parents, Jake and I's parents, and Troy's parents, for that matter, are really into movies and especially that era of movies. But
for whatever reason, we never.
Mom and Dad never. Mom and Dad didn't. Dad has told me he doesn't like that movie, so
that's the thing.
We watched it as a family.
My parents loved that movie, so we watched it often. I mean, it wasn't necessarily a Christmas tradition to watch Scrooge, but if we were flipping through channels on the TV and Scrooge was on, you better believe my dad would stop and watch it and chuckle and laugh. But it's a story of it's a Christmas Carol story, so you know what's going to happen. You know that he's going to have a change of heart. You know, but the way that it happens, I think, is really well done, and the supporting cast is also really well done. Or really, they do a really good job as well. But my favorite supporting cast member in the movie is I wish I remembered his name. It's the comedian that sounds like this, and he gets the shotgun. He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to kill you!" Right? You guys know who I'm talking about. I'm going to find it real quick, or we can just move on. What do you guys want to do?
Let's do both.
Let's do both.
Working on those stuff.
I don't think I'll find it in time. Anyway, but actually, another little bit of fun fact about that movie is: did you guys ever see the documentary "The New York Doll"?
I've heard about it.
It's about the bassist for the old band, the New York Dolls. After they broke up, he kind of went through a really crazy midlife crisis and ended up joining the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He ended up becoming a member and ended up serving a mission and everything. And so the documentary picks up with him serving a senior mission at some I think it was I think it was a church history. Anyway, I don't remember exactly what it was, but he was serving an LDS mission, and it was talking about him playing for the New York Doll, or playing with the New York Dolls, and then their kind of reunion. But the lead singer of the New York Dolls actually plays the Ghost of Christmas Past, the cab driver in Scrooged, and it actually referenced that part in the movie because the New York Doll, the bassist, got really, really upset when he was watching Scrooged and saw this guy in the movie and was being successful. Anyway, little fun, interesting tidbit facts. Anyway.
Bobcat Goldthwait, Troy.
That's it. Yeah.
Bobcat Goldthwait. That's the guy you're talking about. He's great. He's a weird dude, but yeah.
Let's move on to Chris.
Get into our goats.
Yeah. We don't have
Scott, you want to read Chris's
too much more time on.
Yeah. You want to read Chris's goat pick?
His goat was one of your picks.
Let's go over our runners up again. So Chris had
the Bill Murray stories.
Bill Murray stories. I had Ghostbusters,
Jungle Book for Scotty.
Jungle Book, and then Troy had Scrooged. It's a good list.
That's not bad.
Pretty decent list.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I believe Chris's goat was on your list too, right, Scott? So maybe you can read it and then give us some of your info on it. So
yeah. So he chose Lost in Translation.
Does it get easier?
No. Yes. It gets easier.
Oh, yeah? Look at you.
Thanks. The more you know who you are and what you want, the less you let things upset you.
Yeah. I just don't know what I'm supposed to be. You know? I tried being a writer, but I hate what I write. And I tried taking pictures, but they're so mediocre, you know? And every girl goes through a photography phase. You know, like horses. You know, take dumb pictures of your feet.
You'll figure that out. And I'm not worried about you. Keep writing.
But I'm so mean.
Means okay.
Mm. What about marriage? Does that get easier?
That's hard. We used to have a lot of fun. Lydia would come with me when I made the movies, and we would laugh about it all. Now she doesn't want to leave the kids, and she doesn't need me to be there. The kids miss me, but they're fine. It gets a whole lot more complicated when you have kids.
Yeah, it's scary.
It's the most terrifying day of your life, the day the first one is born.
Yeah. Nobody ever tells you that.
Your life, as you know it, is gone. Never to return. But they learn how to walk and they learn how to talk, and you want to be with them. And they turn out to be the most delightful people you will ever meet in your life.
It's a very un-Bill Murray-like movie.
Yeah, I love this movie though. Anyway, we'll hear it from Chris's mouth. So, Lost in Translation is one of the most genuine, intimate movies ever made. Bill Murray practically plays himself as an older actor on the verge of retirement. The irony being that he would then go on to make some of the best movies of his life afterwards. The writing from Sofia Coppola felt deeply personal, and the three main characters said so much with so little words spoken. The three characters being Bill Murray, Scarlett Johansson, and the city of Tokyo itself. Ew, Chris, jeez. Scarlett also...
How pretentious.
I know. He's like a film.
Almost like he went to film school or something. Douchebag.
All right. Scarlett also played the role of a bored, young, newlywed wife perfectly. And Murray's caretaker type role and motivation for courting her is literally up for translation. This movie beautifully shows the impact a stranger can have on your life. It made me think very deeply afterwards. Why is it always easier to tell a stranger how you really are? All of the characters that pass you on the road filled with busy people inside, are they a part of your life now? Sorry, I'm butchering this.
To be fair, it wasn't written very well either.
He probably wrote it on his iPhone on his cell phone, just with kids in the bath. which brings me back to Murray and his sad depiction of Bob and the inner thoughts you can always see on his face. Bill Murray puts on a performance of a lifetime in this role that he was very much so born to play. Chris brings up some pretty cool points in there that it hadn't really registered completely with me, but the whole thing is the way a stranger can impact your life, and how for some reason it is true to an extent that you can open up to a stranger more so than the people closest to you. And that is basically the premise of the movie.
Because there's no fear of what that's going to do to your relationship, opening up to them, being honest with a stranger. There's no fear of like, what is this going to do to my relationship with this person?
And a lot of times
you don't have a relationship.
Yeah, you're looking for an unbiased opinion on what's going on a lot of times, and only a stranger can give you that.
It's interesting. I wasn't a fan. Okay, so Sofia Coppola is an interesting director. She did Godfather 3 and kind of butchered the series and made the trilogy, turned the trilogy into from like a goat trilogy to something that you can't really consider because you have to take that third movie. But this movie she did was so well done. But if you look at the difference between, I'm sorry guys, I'm getting way off in the weeds here, but this movie, as opposed to Godfather 3, which is a big story about it's a big story with a lot of subtext and background. Whereas Lost in Translation is a small story. It's very much a story between two people. And the city.
And a city.
And yeah, it's so interesting. It's an interesting way that you take two white Americans and make them strangers and make them meet in a place like Tokyo where neither of them are able to communicate with other people. So they're the only people they're able to talk with.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a super interesting concept. An old aging actor that's about to retire, a young woman who just got married, who has a husband that is ignoring her. It's a very interesting movie, very artistic movie.
Mm-hmm. It is artistic.
Loved it though. I thought it was great. The dialogue in that movie.
This movie, I didn't watch it until probably within a year ago, probably for this podcast. No, never mind. I just talked about it once. Anyway, it really moved me more than I thought it would, because I had no preconceived notions of what it would be about. It did seem a little artsy going into it, but it's really good. Scarlett Johansson did really good too. She was like 17 when she
super young.
Yeah.
And when you watch it, you're like, oh wow, she's super young.
Yeah, I didn't know she was 17 until months after I watched it, but yeah, it's really good. It's one that like, what do I compare it to? It's you kind of have to go into it with a different kind of mindset almost, where I don't know, it feels different than most movies, and so you're not going to it's not going to have like this really good like catharsis at the end. You know, you're not going to have this really good smooth landing at the end. It's a
in fact, a lot of people hate the end.
Mm-hmm.
They hate the end because it shows. I don't know if I want to say.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to say, but I think it goes along with Chris's description, where how a stranger can affect your life, and it's like, anyway, it's if you haven't seen it, I strongly suggest you go see it because it's really good.
Yeah, it's an interesting pick for a GOAT because it's so against the grain for Bill Murray, and
especially for Chris, because
types of movies.
Because Chris isn't usually into like the artsy type,
artistic,
but it is very, like you said, it's very genuine. You can tell it's
And we had a whole episode about what makes something pretentious. I don't know if we had an episode. We had a whole conversation, one episode, about what makes something pretentious.
Mm-hmm.
And whether this movie is pretentious or not, I think a lot of people do think it is. But I think the genuine nature of the movie makes it feel less pretentious.
Yeah.
Than the subject matter would suggest.
Well, it is funny because like the way it's shot, the way it's acted, and everything feels pretentious, but then there's this core to it that isn't, and so it puts off a pretentious vibe while not being. Anyway, you can make your own judgments about it.
Watch the movie. It's definitely worth watching at least once, for sure. Probably twice because it's good.
I haven't had anything to say about it because of my list of movies I wanted to watch. This was of Bill Murray's for the homework. This was the only one I didn't get a chance to watch. So I know I feel I'm kicking myself for it, but I'm going to go watch it. So
as far as Bill Murray's typical, and like we talked about, he doesn't have a typical role he plays, but it's different than anything else. And it also is interesting, and I'm going to try and stop saying that word. That Chris said he plays himself. We said that a couple times now.
Mm-hmm.
That he
like in Jungle Book or even in Space Jam where he literally plays himself.
It's true.
But like plays a role that you could envision him actually being, and obviously he's not a real bear, but the concept behind the bear.
He brings so much of himself to every role he does.
Yeah.
I think is what it's coming to.
I think that's fair. I think that's an interesting aspect of Bill Murray himself is that he even in his like crazy roles like What About Bob, where he's obviously not a crazy, inmate person, whatever. He brings that level of believability. I think that you actually kind of believe that this is somebody that he could be. I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of just going with it here, but
let's transition that into my goat, which is What About Bob?
Do you want to come sailing with me on my friend George's boat?
No.
That's okay. You don't have to.
No, I'd love to. It sounds great. I've never been on a boat, and I don't think I can handle it. It just makes my lips numb to think about it. But if your friend is a good sailor and the craft is seaworthy, yes, I will go sailing. Yeah, let's go sailing. I have no other plans. I'm sailing! I'm sailing! I'm sailing! I'm sailing! I'm sailing! I'm sailing! Dr. Marvin, guess what? Ahoy! I sail. I'm a sailor. I sail. Isn't this a breakthrough? I mean, that I'm a sailor? I sail. I sail now.
Keep sailing, Bob.
Out on a boat on the lake, way far away from the dock, with the wind of the wind with the sky and everything. Ahoy!
What about that?
What About Bob is one of those movies. My dad. So it's something that. It gives me flashbacks whenever, because So What About Bob is a movie about a psychiatrist who he wrote a book that is a bestseller, and he's really full of himself, and he's really proud, and he thinks he's pretty hot stuff. And then he gets
played by Richard Dreyfuss.
Looks down on his patients. Absolutely, like just has this, like level of.
He has a bust of himself in his office type of person. Like it's just. Then he gets this new client that is played by Bill Murray, who is a clingy, really difficult client who comes in, and Richard Dreyfuss goes on a vacation with his family, and then. Bill Murray.
Baby steps, Jake. Baby steps.
Bill Murray follows him to his family vacation home, and then hilarity ensues as he tries to connect with his doctor.
Oh man! And if you think Steve Carell is awkward and cringy, this is turned up to 11.
Seriously, if you think Steve Carell is awkward, Steve Carell movies like. Dan in Real Life or Crazy Stupid
Dinner
Love.
with the Schmucks.
Dinner with the Schmucks. This movie is more awkward than any of them. He is so bad
What's
as
funny
far as that's concerned. But he's brilliant.
He's so endearing that he gets everybody on his side.
Oh yeah, the whole family's on his side.
Everybody. I mean, the whole reason why Richard Dreyfuss's character was going to his vacation home was because Good Morning America was going to come interview him, and Bill Murray is so endearing that he ends up being interviewed with him.
Well, dude, and
live
you know what?
TV. And
You saying that, you saying that made me realize like. The movie without Richard Dreyfuss obviously it would suck, but like it's Richard Dreyfuss's he's what's driving the movie.
Yeah, he's
like he does it so well. Like because without him, it's just a good movie about a guy that connects with the family and it is really that everyone loves. It's Richard Dreyfuss is going crazy behind this like that makes it so awkward. It's funny. It's Richard Dreyfuss that's awkward, not Bill.
Even in the very end at the wedding, he's like, "Forever hold your peace," and he just finally, oh man. I don't know how many spoilers I should give, but
the straight man and crazy, like it flips that on its head a little bit.
Yeah.
Where you don't know who the
psychotic person is the straight man.
Yeah.
Well,
and the grounded person is the wild man.
Mm-hmm. And even like Richard Dreyfuss's character, I can't remember his character's name, but whatever. He even takes him as his psychiatrist, takes him to a mental hospital to admit him. But Bill Murray's character is so endearing that he convinces the entire hospital staff and the head psychiatrist of the mental hospital to let him go because he's just a nice guy.
That's funny because that's something that Chris and I talked about a couple days ago. As a matter of fact, is that watching the movie back in the day, it's always like, oh, Bill Murray's so silly. It's a funny movie, silly movie about Bill Murray. Watching the movie now, I side with Richard Dreyfuss on everything.
Absolutely.
I'm like, I empathize so hard with Richard. Like that guy's a psychopath.
Yeah,
that guy. You should call the police. That guy's a nut job.
Well, like he even pretends to be a cop to get the address of his vacation home. He's a psychopath. He is completely crazy and absolutely does like.
And there's so many wonderful, beautiful one-liners in this movie, and that's part of the things when I said that it gives me flashbacks and like panic attacks because there's a line in that movie where he first meets up with the doctor in Nantucket or whatever
Martha's
Vineyard. When he first shows up there and he finds Richard Dreyfuss, and Richard Dreyfuss is like, "You can't be here, you have to leave." And then he starts like hyperventilating and freaking out and saying, "But Doc, I need." And then Richard Dreyfuss is like, okay, fine, calm down, and starts talking to him. And anytime growing up, I had a freak out of any kind, my dad would make fun of me by going, I need.
I've heard your dad do that too.
I know you have, because anybody who has met me and met my dad has heard my dad do that line. And I had forgotten where that came from until I watched it for this podcast, for this episode. And when I watched that scene, I had a mini panic attack listening to my dad making fun of me while I was having a freak out and just being like, oh my gosh, I can't take it. But I also had a conversation with my parents this last weekend about one of our neighbors, one of their good friends growing up was the bishop in the ward. They were the ecclesiastical leader, and there was a guy in the ward named Bob that was attached and super clingy to him. And so he was always showing up at his house and like saying, "Oh, Bishop, I need help. And there was one time where they were out, he called the house and the kids said, "Oh, he's at dinner. My parents are at dinner." And the guy found out where they were at dinner at, and then was waiting outside the restaurant when they came out of the restaurant. He was standing there and saying, "Bishop, I need help." And so when my parents went with them, they went out when What About Bob came out. They went to the movie with this couple, and they came out, and my mom and dad were dying of laughter. They were like, "That is such a funny movie," and both of them came out and was like, "There's nothing funny about that. Nothing at all. I don't see any humor in that movie. That movie just gave me flat. Like, it makes me laugh because it actually happens. There are, throwing this back to an earlier conversation, Bill Murray brings a believability to his roles because there are people that are actually like that. That he turns it up to 11 and turns it up to like Richard Dreyfuss straps him up with dynamite and says, we're gonna blow you up. And he's like, oh, it's death therapy. I have to figure out how to not be. And like, it's his way, but so he turns it up to 11, but he brings this believability to the role that is so Bill Murray. I don't know. It's
great.
So great.
Well, and talking about one-liners, I think one of my favorite things in that movie was after so he goes on the boat with the daughter, and he's literally strapped to the mast. And then he starts telling everybody, I'm a sailor now.
I'm a sailor now.
I'm a sailor. The whole time he's like, yeah, I'm a sailor. I didn't know.
When literally he was tied to the mast of the boat.
Because he's afraid. It was one of my favorites. Oh, it was so great.
Good stuff. So that's my pick for GOAT. What about Bob?
That's great.
It was a good pick. It was a good pick. I thought about, actually, you know what's funny is I thought about putting your guys' picks because I knew one of us was going to pick this one, and then I knew what one of us was going to pick the other one. And so I was going to put those in my runner-up, but I knew that was going to be a GOAT pick. So I'm glad we picked it. So anyway.
Okay, who's up next?
I think it's Scott.
Okay. So mine, we've talked about quite a bit, it feels like. I don't know. I feel like I'm always talking about it. It's a movie that I can literally watch anytime. Like there's not a moment that someone says, let's watch The Man Who Knew Too Little. And I wouldn't say, all right, pop it in. Let's watch. It's up there with one of my favorite movies.
I can literally quote this movie front to back.
Yeah.
I watched this movie with a lady friend of mine in preparation for this, and she made fun of me because I wouldn't say it out loud, but I mouthed every word of the movie as it was happening. I was mouthing along with the movie because I know every single joke for this movie. I've seen this movie a dozen times at least.
Oh yeah.
The funny thing about this movie for me is that this is always the movie that you guys, when you go up to the cabin, watch. That's always the movie that's put in, and I'm always like, I've always just been kind of slightly annoyed by it. I was like, all right, whatever, and then we watch it and we kind of laugh or whatever. And so I was able to watch it for the homework, and I actually was able to sit and appreciate it a little more, and I love it. It's such a good movie.
In fact, what's that?
So I was just gonna say, so the joke, if you've been listening to the podcast for a little while, the joke about our dynamic of the four of us is that Chris and Scott Jake and Scott always vote for each other's movies. So I almost picked The Man Who Knew Too Little as my GOAT, so that you two would vote for me.
You should have.
No.
Game in the system.
That's funny.
I know, and I like resisted picking it because of that. Like I feel like it's
cliche.
It's cliche at this point because we talk about it a lot. But man, I couldn't not pick it.
It was my pick, and I knew Scott was going to pick it, and so Scotty picked it. So I said,
"Yeah."
What about Bob?
It's funny because this movie, when you really think about the best Bill Murray movies, this one doesn't really make it up the top of many people's lists. It might be on the top 10, but I mean, most people are going to start saying movies like Ghostbusters or
Caddyshack.
What about Bob? Yeah.
What about Bob?
It's not one of his most visible, well-known movies.
Right.
Okay, Scott. So tell us what the movie's about.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So it's about this American who is visiting his brother in England, and his brother needs to buy some time because he has this meeting with the Germans at his house, and so he has to get Bill out of the house. And so he had seen on TV this advertisement about the Theater of Life, which is an interactive theater experience where the person can go and pretend like they're a part of the movie, and it's like this guided theater experience
through London.
Throughout London, and so they're supposed to meet at this phone, and he gets a phone call that incites this cool espionage thing, and so he goes to the Muse where he's supposed to meet the guy, and it ends up he got the wrong phone call, and he's actually involved in this actual international espionage between Russia and Britain, and and so he goes through this whole thing, and he's dealing with actual criminals and actual agents, assassins, and all this stuff.
He's in actual danger.
He's in actual danger, but he stumbles through it, and he looks like this mastermind throughout the whole movie because for some reason he's just lucky enough to stumble through it, and because everything works out for him
the whole time.
Yeah. And so he'll like redo lines and stuff with these criminals and these assassins, and they're like, "What is happening?"
Or he's like, or to the woman in the room, he's like, "Oh, there's a gun in that top drawer, isn't there?" Because he just,
of course there
is.
And she's like,
where she's like, "All right, just do it, just shoot me." He's like, "All right, if that's part of the script." he points the gun at her and closes his eyes, and bang. And he misses. He's like, "What have I done? I've missed from 3 feet."
Or when he's being chased by the cops, he's like, "I've always wanted to do this." And he hits all the bumper things, and he's like, "I've always wanted to do that." And then like the cops finally he goes he goes the reverse way around the roundabout, and then finally he stops, and then the cops are sitting with him, and then he's like, he pulls out his microphone thing that actually gets
communicator
with the Minister of Defense or something of England, and then he basically anyway they all think he's a top level spy, and it's hilarious,
dude. And that part is like, tomorrow night, because he's like, "I'm going to do this tomorrow night because it's so fun." He's like, "Tomorrow night I'm going to go the other way around the roundabout," because they had no chance keeping up to me going the American way.
Going the American way, dude. The redoing lines when she's like, "Just say it. You don't trust me." And he's like, "I don't trust you." And she turns to walk away, and he grabs her hand. "Wait, I don't trust you." Because he has to do it like more dramatic. Everything.
It's so good.
I could literally, like, when he pokes his eye, like, how do you people cry? How do you do? He thinks she's an actor and she's crying, and he's like, "How do you do that? Did you just think like, my dog is dead?"
Poke yourself in the eye.
It pokes himself in the eye. "My dog is dead."
You look at that and you're like, "Oh man, he's an idiot for pretending to be an actor, or for like thinking he's an actor in this show." But then you look at her and she's just like, "He's just making fun of me." He's like,
"Yeah, from her perspective."
Like, oh my gosh,
that's always the great thing about this movie, is seeing everybody else's perspective when he's just screwballing around thinking he's in some big production, and everybody else is taking it completely seriously. And so the woman he gets stuck with is like, just thinks he's hot shit. Oh man, it's so funny,
dude.
And he's talking to the Boris the butcher. He's like, "Oh, we always have to clean up after." "Oh, we do have to clean up." always Dude, when the 2 Russian guys are shooting at him when he's standing on the ledge and he gets the dust in his eye, and he's like, "Don't forget my safety, Jagoff." He's so pissed off because they're not taking his safety into consideration.
Right.
I quoted this movie today to one of my kids that screamed in my ear. And I was like, "You don't scream in someone's ear. It does damage."
I don't think there has been a week of my life that has gone by since being an adult that I haven't quoted this movie at least once during a week. It is the entire movie for sure. We could literally sit here and quote the entire movie back and forth to each other and just laugh
giggle,
heads off the entire time. It is so funny.
So
the hijinks that happen in this movie are I'm trying to think of a person who I can compare, like Peter Sellers in Pink Panther, like that kind of
bubbling through.
That kind of hijinks is what this is, but it's that for literally 2 hours, and
this storyline has been done. I can't think of anything like in particular, but I know it's been done. But man, it's done.
I mean, it's based on a movie called The Spy Who Knew Too Much, or The Man Who Knew Too Much, about a guy trying to escape a spy plot. But then they kind of turned it on its head and called it The Man Who Knew Too Little. And it just,
So I even had recently did a D&D thing where my character, I created a D&D character based on this movie.
Sir Wallace of Witchy.
Sir Wallace of Mary. And so he went through the whole D&D campaign not knowing it was
thinking he was an actor.
I thought I was like I went through the whole campaign thinking I was.
Was this a
acting.
one shot we did?
Yeah, for Chris's birthday.
When I kept doing like really dramatic.
That's right.
Scott kept putting on his glasses
I have just
let's get to business.
I just barely connected those. I was wondering why you were being such a moron.
Scotty, because I ran that campaign and Scotty kept texting me going, I really hope that other people are thinking that I'm just really bad at this game.
No, I obviously know you're good at D&D. Like you're good at it. You know what you're doing. But I could not for the life of me figure out why your character was just such a dick.
One of the funny lines in that whole night was when Scott's character, like they were like, Chris's character was like, so we're gonna go fight someone. You're okay with that, right? And Scotty was like, oh yeah, I do action. I've been weapons trained and everything. I can do action.
It makes so much sense now. I'm so pissed that I didn't get it.
As the DM, I was standing there like giggling like an idiot every time Scott made any type of comment or anything doing role playing because I was like, oh my god, it was just a quote from Man Who Knew Too Little.
If I would have caught on to that, I would have like tried to like sneakily stole your wallet and then have you say something like, I'm getting that back at the end of this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This is crap like you that sticks to the bottom of a good man's loafer.
Too much. Okay.
Anyway,
that movie. Good pick. It was funny because I wanted to watch that movie and like it because the other times I did watch it, I was like, yeah, it's a good movie, whatever. I never really cared much, but to actually sit and watch it and like be like, I'm gonna try to see why the Giffords like it so much, and you like it for good reasons. It's a great movie.
And when you look at the supporting cast he had, you have Alfred Molina is Boris the Butcher.
Oh,
Alfred Molina is good in literally everything he does. You have the super hot lady that
Lori,
who also plays Sorsha in Willow.
Yep. And she's in Punisher, the most recent Punisher season.
She did a really good job playing her part. His brother, obviously,
Eyebrows McGee.
Peter Gallagher.
Eyebrows McGee. He does have out of control eyebrows. But yeah, he did a really great job playing like the straight man, like he was worried about him the whole time. It was a great overall, like everybody played their parts really well. The storyline moved along really well. Like as a movie, it actually works. And it's a true comedy where
it reminds me of something.
He doesn't learn anything. There is no art.
Yeah.
He doesn't become better at the end. He doesn't become worse at the end. He's the exact same person at the end as he was at the beginning. So it's a true what is it, Greek comedy where there's no arc in the movie or in the story.
Before we move on, when you're talking about Eyebrows McGee, that really, because the only people who know that he's in that theater of life are him. Wallace is his name, right? Wallace and his brother. And so Richie, yeah. And so he brings Lori to his brother's house and he introduces her in front of him and all of the Germans
he
was doing a presentation for as the hooker.
he's the call girl.
She's the call girl.
Minister's call girl.
Defense minister's call girl.
She hits him and walks away, and he just thinks it's part of the act. And then Richie's the only one that knows what's going on. And then all of the Germans are like, "Oh, he just brought a hooker into his house." Oh, it's so good,
dude. And
like, wait, what does your brother do for work? And they're like,
"Oh, he's in the film business.
He's in the movie business." And like, oh, okay.
And they make fun of him because he works at Blockbuster Video, Des Moines, Iowa. That's he's in the film industry.
Honestly, when I was on my mission, Dad lost his job.
Mm-hmm.
So this will tie in, I promise. When I was on my mission, my dad lost his job. So I got a letter from my mom saying that in the process that they didn't know if they were going to move Dad from one place or another, if they were going to, there was a chance he could move to Portland, Oregon. There was a chance that there was also a chance that he could move to Des Moines, Iowa. So I got a letter, freaked me out so bad. I got a letter saying, you might not be coming home to Salt Lake City, Utah. You might be coming home to Des Moines, Iowa, which depressed me greatly. No offense to the good people in Des Moines, Iowa, but I like the mountains. But as soon as Mom said that, I turned and looked at my companion and was like, Elder, I'm going to have to work at Blockbuster Video in Des Moines, Iowa.
And you made that
joke. He had no idea what I was talking about.
You made that joke about 2 weeks after everyone else in our family made that joke.
Yeah, of course, because everybody was. But he had no idea what I was talking about.
I can't even hear the word Blockbuster Video without thinking Des Moines, Iowa.
Without thinking Des Moines, Iowa. I can't hear Des Moines, Iowa without thinking Blockbuster Video.
Yep,
it's fair. After
that movie, it's a cult classic and it's just specifically the Giffords. Like the rest of our extended family, they're like, yeah, it's good, it's fine. But for whatever reason, Mom, Dad, Jake, Scott, Jesse, Liza, we die every time we watch it. So,
okay, so let's move on. My GOAT Bill Murray film is probably this is my hot take. Probably the most beloved Bill Murray film of all time. In fact, it's so beloved they even made a Super Bowl commercial this last last Super Bowl depicting it, and that is Groundhog Day.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
I'm a god.
You're God.
I'm a god. I'm not the god. I don't think.
Because you survived a car wreck?
You folks ready to order?
I didn't just survive a wreck. I wasn't just blown up yesterday. I have been stabbed, shot, poisoned, frozen, hung, electrocuted, and burned.
Oh, really?
And every morning I wake up without a scratch on me, not a dent in the fender. I am an immortal.
Special today is blueberry waffles.
Why are you telling me this?
Because I want you to believe in me.
You're not a god. You can take my word for it. This is 12 years of Catholic school talking.
I could come back if you're not ready.
How do you know I'm not a god?
Oh, please.
How do you know?
Because it's not possible.
I'll come back.
Doris. This is Doris. Her brother-in-law, Carl, owns this diner. She's worked here since she was 17. More than anything else in her life, she wants to see Paris before she dies.
Oh, boy,
What are you doing?
This is Debbie Kleiser and her fiancé, Fred.
Do I know you?
They're supposed to be getting married this afternoon, but Debbie is having second thoughts.
What?
Lovely ring.
This is Bill. He's been a waiter for 3 years since he left Penn State and had to get work. He likes the town, he paints toy soldiers, and he's gay.
I am.
This is Gus. He hates his life here. He wishes he stayed in the Navy.
Well, I could have retired on half pay after 20 years.
Excuse me, is this some kind of trick?
Well, maybe the real God uses tricks. You know, maybe he's not omnipotent. He's just been around so long, he knows everything.
Oh, okay. Well, who's that?
This is Tom. He worked in the coal mine until they closed it down.
And her?
It's Alice. Came over here from Ireland when she was a baby. She lived in Erie most of her life.
He's right. And her?
Nancy. She works in the dress shop and makes noises like a chipmunk when she gets real excited.
Hey!
It's true.
How do you know these people?
I told you, I know everything. In about 5 seconds, a waiter's gonna drop a tray of dishes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay?
Okay, that's enough. What about me, Phil? Do you know me too?
I know all about you. You like producing, but you open for more than Channel 9 Pittsburgh.
Well, everyone knows that.
You like boats, but not the ocean. You go to a lake in the summer with your family up in the mountains. There's a long wooden dock and a boathouse with boards missing from the roof. And a place you used to crawl underneath to be alone. You're a sucker for French poetry and rhinestones. You're very generous. You're kind to strangers and children. And when you stand in the snow, you look like an angel.
How are you doing this?
I told you, I wake up every day right here, right in Punxsutawney, and it's always February 2nd. And there's nothing I can do about it. If you still can't believe me, listen. In 10 seconds, Larry is going to come through that door and take you away from me. But you can't let him.
Larry.
Please believe me. You've got to believe me.
You guys ready? We better get going if we're gonna stay ahead of the weather. What's that?
We're going to stay ahead of the weather.
I got you, babe. I got you, babe.
They even made a holiday after it every year. They celebrate that movie.
Right.
Did you know that I'm living that movie right now? I wake up every morning listening to Sonny and Cher and experience the exact same thing over and over.
That is actually
You just
kind
smash
of
your
fitting
alarm clock.
that everybody who is in this quarantine kind of feels like they're in a bit of a repeating Groundhog Day. So
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean,
that way,
what
this
day
pick
is it? today?
thematic?
I don't know what day it is.
Oh shoot!
I have work tomorrow, I think.
I have work tomorrow, so it's Sunday.
Yesterday was Saturday. Today is also Saturday, and then tomorrow's Saturday. So
Next week will be Saturday.
Groundhog Day. If you haven't seen it, get your head out of your ass and go watch it. But if you haven't seen it, the movie is about a man. I think he's a weatherman, isn't he?
Yeah, weatherman.
Right. He's a weatherman, and he goes to do a report in
Pittsburgh, a weatherman in Pittsburgh who's trying to get into a better market.
Exactly. So he goes to
Punxsutawney.
Punxsutawney. Thank you. I keep forgetting. Anyway, Punxsutawney, which is where the groundhog lives. Anyway, so he goes there to do a report. Yes. And then he goes to do a report and then basically gets stuck in a loop where he just wakes up the same, like every night, like he goes to bed at night, wakes up the next day, and everything is the exact same. And the funny thing is the movie never really tells you how long he's been stuck in that loop.
But it's years.
I've seen like interviews and stuff that was like, oh, the original script is really dark. Like, he's there for like 10,000 years.
Oh, wow.
Repeating. And like, like the original script gets really dark, and the amount of times he kills himself and the depression he goes through and all that different stuff. Like it can get pretty
it's just kind of funny because like it goes into that whole, what would you do if you had to live the same day like over and over again for 10,000 years?
He also,
if you had unlimited time where you wouldn't die and whatever.
Well, and you couldn't persist any like work you did. Like if you did like, if you were writing a book, you'd have to rewrite
everything.
You couldn't persist it.
Yeah. So what he ended up doing is he ended up bettering himself. He learned how to play the piano. He
things that he could intrinsically carry on to the next day.
He learned about people's lives and learned how to was able to talk to them and get to know them. Like he was able to basically walk throughout town and prevent things from happening or change some old lady's flat tire.
It is important.
A good Samaritan, but with superpowers almost.
It is important to know what Jake said, that he's trying to get into. He's ambitious and trying to get into a bigger market, and so being sent to Punxsutawney to report on Groundhog Day, like that's like the lowest of the low. That's the big. That's the fluffiest of the fluff on the news, and so he's like he hates that he's there. He hates all the people there, and so he has to go through this big learning, this big growing thing, and so that is a big part of his character arc.
Yeah,
learning to love people, learning to love
even Ned Ryerson.
Even Ned Ryerson.
Hell?
Ned Ryerson? Dude, I love that when he hugged him and he's like, let's run away. What are you doing today? Let's just get out of here and make it a day and let's run away. And then Ned's like, it's gotta go. The only time he doesn't go, woo-hoo, watch that next step. It's a doozy.
Honestly, I think that the Groundhog Day Super Bowl commercial was probably the only commercial that I actually remember and loved. Like
Jeep, it was the Jeep one, right?
Yeah, but just to get Bill Murray to reprise that and a lot of those same actors to reprise it, like their roles was just, I don't know, it was just fun. It was just a nice little blast to the past.
Mm-hmm.
Blast in the past. Speaking of, we got some Andie MacDowell action. She's not. I haven't seen her since the 90s. When was it? Was she in Multiplicity? Was she the? Remember that movie Multiplicity?
Yeah, I think she was in that.
I think she was the wife in Multiplicity. I think that might be the last thing I remember seeing her in.
She was in a bunch. I think she was in a bunch of chick flicks.
She was in Multiplicity. She was also in Michael, the movie with.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's a good movie.
That's a great movie too.
Yeah.
I like Andie MacDowell. I thought she was great. I'm kind of sad that I don't see her in as much anymore because
she's actually doing a lot, but a lot of stuff that you wouldn't hear about.
And speaking of supporting cast, his brother Brian Doyle.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Doyle.
He's a mayor. Right?
Mayor. Dude, that scene when he drives the groundhog in the truck and drives it into the quarry and explodes the quarry, and the cameraman's like,
Punxsutawney Phil.
He could have survived that.
The cameraman looks down and he's like, yeah, he probably could have survived, and then it explodes. That was funny. I like that.
But I also think that movie will forever change that Sonny and Cher song in your mind and not be able to listen to it the same way ever again. In fact, I think I may change my my alarm ringtone to be that during this quarantine, because I mean it may end you.
That will last all of about 3 days.
I know, right? We should have done that 2 months ago. My goodness. Anyway, yeah, no, that's Groundhog Day.
That's a good one. I was that was one of my runner-ups that I wanted to put in there, and I mean, if not for The Man Who Knew Too Little, it's probably my second favorite. It's so good.
Yeah,
it's one of the only ones. What's interesting that I just realized is that between our runner-up and our GOAT, 3 of them are ones that he is the lead, the solo lead between Man Who Knew Too Little and Groundhog Day and Scrooged.
You could make an argument for One About Bob, but I think that
I think Richard Dreyfuss is kind of a co-lead actor in that one.
But yeah, Groundhog Day, Man Who Knew Too Little, and Scrooged. Yeah,
there's not many where he is the because like Lost in Translation, that is definitely Scarlett Johansson's film. But he plays a huge role in that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Ghostbusters, he's not.
Ghostbusters obviously is a group. It's very interesting where that the ones that we're picking are movies where he is the lead actor.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I challenge you. Other than these 3, pick a few more that where he is the lead. And there's not.
I mean,
many.
there's like, I don't know if you've seen like recently St. Vincent.
St. Vincent was the one that I really wanted to watch for this, and then never.
I saw it in theater. It was okay. It wasn't anything great.
That had Melissa McCarthy in it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to watch it, and I didn't see it, and it makes me sad. I'll watch it. I doubt I'll report on that, though. Sorry, guys.
That's all right. I'm just looking through here, and like, if you like, just being honest, like he doesn't play a lot of leading roles, but he is a very beloved actor, and going back to Groundhog Day, I would say that's probably America's most beloved film of his. But
it is. It's so good. It's the feel good movie that has deep. There's lots of deep meaning in it, but it's still Bill Murray. So he has his sense of humor isn't like as what is it, advertiser friendly as any, but it's still really good and pretty clean as far as what Bill Murray put out in that time period.
But I think that's also maybe a statement of him as a person. Yeah, he might be hard to work with, or he might be hard to, professionally get along with or whatever, but he's okay not being a lead.
Yeah.
Think about it. But you also want to kind of give a shout out to some of his other roles that kind of sometimes go a little bit more forgotten, like his role in Space Jam, where he plays himself, but he literally plays a pretty vital role. Like, I think he ends up like saving the game, doesn't he? Because he's like one of the Looney Tunes goes out and he comes in and he actually can ball, right?
Yep.
And then the other one I was thinking of was Osmosis Jones.
Oh yeah.
He's the guy that it's just one of those roles, because when you think of Osmosis Jones, you think of the cartoon aspect of it. You don't think of the live action aspect where it's literally his body. Frank is his character, but like you think about those. He plays
Space
a lot
Jam,
of those.
Osmosis Jones, yeah, those ones are interesting.
But he even makes a cameo appearance in Little Shop of Horrors.
Yep, that's true.
He plays one of the dentist patients, right? Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so there you go, Bill Murray.
Okay, should we get a vote going? See what we pick for the
let's recap the four goats. We got Chris's, which is Lost in Translation, Jake's, which is What About Bob, Scott's, which is The Man Who Knew Too Little, and then mine, which is Groundhog Day.
Did we get Chris's vote?
I just texted him. So
did he send it to you? Oh,
yeah. Okay. Good.
All right. Well then, let's see here. So I'm going to go ahead and vote for the man.
So let's start with What About Bob?
Oh,
anybody voting for What About Bob? Man Who Knew Too Little. That's 2 votes for Man Who Knew Too Little.
I should have made that my pick. Damn it.
Groundhog Day. Chris votes for Groundhog Day, by the way. And then Lost in Translation. Scott's pick. All right. So Man Who Knew Too Little
is the goat.
Is the Coldbow goat. Fantastic.
Nice.
That surprised me. And I'm
happy about that one.
Even though it's a Gifford winner, I'm actually not ashamed that I voted for it. So
yeah, that's a good one. Feel shame, Troy. Feel shame. But you should feel shame for so much more than voting for something that Scotty or I picked.
So much more. Have you seen my forehead? Funny story. I was on a hike with my daughter, my oldest daughter, Rory. She's turning 10 in a little bit. And we were just
10?
Yeah, 10.
Lord have mercy.
I know. So we were walking back and she's just out of this. She's like, Dad, do you think I look more like you or look more like Mom? And I'm like, yeah, I think you have some both of our features. And she's like, yeah, but I don't have your gigantic forehead.
Why did I take a drink right in the middle of that? I honestly was not trying to do a spit take, but I very nearly spit water all over my computer.
And then immediately she's like, I'm sorry, Dad, that was really mean.
Out of the mouth of babes.
Oh my God, that is so fantastic.
But really, when it comes down to it, I don't have shame for voting for The Man Who Knew Too Little. Even if it is a Gifford winner, all I want is a good episode. And I think
that's a great movie.
Yeah.
Great episode.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. This was awesome. I freaking loved the homework, that aspect of this. I can't wait to do another one of these.
Yeah.
There's going to be more coming. There's going to be a lot more coming.
Deep dives on
specific actors, because there's so many that are going to be. The Jack Black one is one that I'm very much looking forward to.
Dude, I know. I've been thinking about them. Like there's some good.
He's got some variety too that you don't realize.
You don't expect. Absolutely. It's good stuff.
Before we say our goodbyes and everything, I just want to say a few things. Check out our Patreon. It is patreon.com/Coldbow podcast. You can also go to our Coldbow podcast Instagram. It's just Coldbow podcast. And there's a link on there it's a Linktree link, but it will give you links to all of our things where you can go to our Patreon. You can get merch. We have shirts. We're going to have more once Amazon gets their stuff together. And you can also listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, and
hit us up on Facebook or Instagram, anywhere. I think we have a Twitter. We're not very active on Twitter. Sorry, folks.
Yeah. It's definitely Instagram if you want to.
Instagram's where we're the most active. Absolutely. Let us know what you think. Let us know what your favorite Bill Murray movie is, because we definitely want to know that. Let us know if you think we're off base here.
Interact with us. Let us know.
We actually we do a lot of BSing to begin before we start talking, that we record a lot of that stuff. And I think we might start releasing some of that stuff to Patreon users. I think that some of that stuff might be interesting for people to hear. So there's just some things that might be coming if we can get you all to maybe
Pony
give
up.
a little.
Pony up.
Pony up and give it. That's what I'm looking for right there. Money.
No, but really, if you enjoy listening to us, or if you're on YouTube and you're watching us, if you enjoy our interactions,
That's true. Get on YouTube.
Yeah.
Coldbow Podcast on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
You can start seeing us.
Mm-hmm.
See what our faces look like. You can see my awesome Hawaiian shirt, Tiger King style.
You can see my forehead. Not in this episode because I'm wearing a hat, but I wasn't in the last episode. So
yeah, fun stuff.
Just take off my hat. Anyway, thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for participating with us. I'm glad we can get together next time. Let's hope Chris can make it. We want to make sure we get him here. We love Chris.
I want to give one more shout out real quick. He interacts with us probably more than anybody else, and that's Brian.
We've talked about Brian.
We talk about Brian all the time, but he is basically, he's a cold bro at this point. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
He's always interacting with us. He is, and so I just want to give another shout out to Brian. Like, thank you, man, for listening.
What up, Brian? How's Phoenix? Is it hot enough?
Now that we're doing Zoom stuff, we should have him hop on.
That would be fun. That'd be great.
At least for a segment or something.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I love Brian. Every time I see him, he has another question to ask about Coldbow. So,
yeah, and he's always interacting with us on social media and giving us suggestions, tips, things. And honestly, people like Brian who interact with us the way that you do makes us really enjoy doing this. And so thank you for listening. Thank you specifically, Brian, for everything. So you're great.
I'm calling him out.
Well, is there anything else?
No, that's it for me.
Well, if there's nothing else, then we'll get going. Thank you guys and love you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.